Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we'll be looking at something that really got me thinking, and it's an article from Barcelona Metropolis
Cool.
called "Is a Universal Innovation System Possible?" And well, it got me thinking, about the future of innovation,
Yeah.
and if it's possible to create a system where, well, everybody can be a part of it.
Yeah, like a democratization of innovation, so to speak.
Exactly, like
Or-
like we've done with education,
Right.
healthcare.
It's a fascinating question, and the article makes a really compelling comparison. We kind of take universal education and healthcare for granted
For granted,
these
yeah.
days, but in their time, those systems were revolutionary. They took essential services that were only available to, well, the privileged few and made them accessible to everyone.
It's incredible to think about the impact, just the impact that had on society as a whole.
Oh, absolutely.
And now we're talking about possibly doing the same thing for innovation in the 21st century.
It's a bold idea for sure.
But how do we even, how do we even begin to approach something like that?
Well, one of the first things the article points out is that, well, the way innovation works right now is pretty exclusive.
Yeah.
It's almost like most of us are just users. We use the technologies and products that are created, but we're not really part of that creative process.
Right.
The article calls it the paradox of the knowledge society. We have more access to information and technology than ever before, but the power to truly innovate, it's still concentrated in the hands of a select few.
It's interesting because it does feel like, yeah, there is this incredible access, but then like just a small group of people are really driving things forward.
Right, exactly. So the question becomes, how do we break down those barriers? How do we democratize innovation? And the article seems to think it's possible, but where do we start?
Where do we even begin?
Well, one of the key shifts the article highlights is the rise of, well, what they call open innovation. And it's really been facilitated by the internet.
Yeah.
And the whole concept of the collaboratory.
Collaboratory, okay.
And that might sound kind of intimidating, but it's basically a virtual space where people from all over the world, with different backgrounds and expertise can work together on projects, solve problems.
Okay, so it's like a global brainstorming session.
Yeah, exactly. A global brainstorming session powered by technology. And it's already happening.
Right.
We're seeing it with the emergence of all these different labs. You've got your fab labs, citizen labs, living labs. These are physical spaces where people can get together, tinker, experiment, collaborate. And they're using cutting-edge technology, but it's open to anyone, regardless of their background.
So it's kind of like taking the spirit of like a community workshop,
Yeah,
but giving it a high-tech upgrade.
precisely.
I like that.
Yeah.
So what does that look like in terms of like, actual innovations? What are we seeing?
Well, the article talks about how tools like Scratch,
Oh, yeah, Scratch.
Arduino, 3D printing, DIY robotics, these could become as commonplace as, libraries or hospitals.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where anyone who wants to learn, experiment, and create has access to these incredible tools.
It is a very exciting vision because it really makes you think about all the untapped potential out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Instead of just passively consuming technology.
Right.
People are actually empowered to design and build like solutions for challenges they face.
Exactly. And the article highlights cities as potential hubs for this kind of grassroots innovation.
Okay, yeah.
They envision cities becoming these vibrant ecosystems of creativity and problem solving with innovation as the engine driving economic growth, entrepreneurship.
Oh, it paints a very optimistic picture, but the article also acknowledges that, there are potential downsides to democratizing innovation, right? If everybody have the power to create, couldn't that, lead to some unintended consequences, like some not so great things?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The article doesn't shy away from the potential risks. And it uses a very interesting analogy, actually. They compare the duality of innovation to a fab lab.
Okay.
A fab lab can be used to create beautiful art, but it can also be used to create, potentially harmful tools. It's a good reminder that access to technology doesn't automatically guarantee positive outcomes.
So then how do we ensure that democratizing innovation doesn't, lead us down a dangerous path? What steps can we take to mitigate those risks?
Well, the article argues that we need a fundamental shift in our cultural paradigm.
Oh, wow.
We need to move away from this mindset that focuses solely on the how of innovation and start prioritizing the why,
Okay, yeah.
and the potential impact our creations might have on society.
Beam impact, yeah.
We need to bake responsibility into the very fabric of innovation.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's a powerful idea.
It is, isn't it?
And it leads to a really interesting idea that the article proposes, and it's something called the quintivium.
The quintivium, yeah.
So what was that?
Well, the quintivium is basically a new layer of learning. And it focuses on what they call the language of innovation. And we're not just talking about technical skills here. We're talking about cultivating a mindset of creative problem solving, critical thinking, and most importantly, ethical awareness. It's almost like a 21st century version of, the trivium and quadrivium.
Oh, like those foundational liberal arts disciplines.
Yeah, exactly.
That shaped Western education, yeah.
Exactly. So the quintivium would equip people with the skills and the mindset, to thrive in a world where innovation is truly accessible to everyone. But also, it emphasizes the importance of understanding the responsibility that comes with that power.
Yeah, because in a world where anyone could be an innovator, I mean, we need to be more mindful than ever about the impact of our creations. I mean, it's a whole new level of accountability.
Right. And the article actually highlights a really cool example of this in action. It's CityLab's use of Scratch.
Oh, Scratch.
Do you remember
So-
Scratch?
Yeah. Yeah.
That visual programming language designed for kids.
It's so intuitive. It's so empowering, even if you have no coding experience. I remember using it. It was a lot of fun.
Right. And you learn so much about problem solving and logical thinking without even realizing it. But the article argues that the language of innovation, it goes beyond those technical skills, building on the work of a computer scientist named George Forsyth, who talked about these general-purpose mental tools.
Oh, interesting.
Things like language, math, computer science. And the article says that the language of innovation adds another dimension awareness of the responsibility that comes with the power to create. It's pretty profound when you think about it.
Yeah, it really is. So in a world where, we're saying anyone can potentially be an innovator, we need to be thinking about the impact of our creations. I mean, that's huge.
It is huge. And that leads us to one of the most thought-provoking questions the article poses.
Don't keep us in suspense. What's the question?
Are we as a society truly ready to embrace the responsibility that comes with democratizing innovation? It's a big one.
It is a big one, and it's one I think we're going to need to explore a little further, but it's definitely, I think, a question that should excite us.
Absolutely.
As much as it makes us think critically about the future that we're creating.
I agree. Yeah, it really is a question with some pretty profound implications, And what makes the article so compelling is that it doesn't just, raise these questions. It actually offers some pathways forward, like some potential scenarios for how this evolution of innovation might unfold.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so what are some of the scenarios that the article outlines?
Well, remember earlier when we were talking about those two contrasting scenarios for the, knowledge revolution?
Right. One where the current system kind of gradually becomes more inclusive and, incorporates citizen input. And then the other more radical scenario with a peer-to-peer system kind of driving change from the ground up.
Yeah, exactly. Those two scenarios really highlight the different ways that we might see this shift towards a more democratic innovation system actually play out.
Yeah.
It could be a slow and steady integration of citizen-led innovation into the existing structures, or it could be something more disruptive, a decentralized movement that fundamentally changes how we approach innovation altogether.
It's almost like we're at a fork in the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we reform the existing system or do we create something entirely new?
And each path has its own set of challenges and opportunities. Of course, the gradual approach might be easier to implement,
right,
especially for those who are currently in positions of power, but it also risks reinforcing those existing inequalities.
Yeah, that's true.
And then on the other hand, the radical peer-to-peer approach, well, that has the potential to be truly transformative,
right,
but it also requires a pretty significant shift in mindset and infrastructure to really support it.
Yeah, it's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
So what factors do you think are going to ultimately determine which path we take as a society?
Well, I think a lot will depend on the choices we make, collectively.
Okay.
Do we prioritize incremental change, or are we bold enough to embrace radical experimentation?
That's a big question.
It is. Do we cling to those traditional hierarchies of power and control?
Yeah.
Or do we empower communities to take ownership of their own innovation processes.
It feels like a defining moment,
Yeah.
not just in terms of how we innovate, but how we shape the future of society as a whole.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's not just about tweaking the existing system. It's about potentially redefining what innovation means
But
and who gets to participate in it.
yeah,
And as the article emphasizes, this shift isn't just about technology, it's about culture.
culture, okay.
It's about moving away from a culture that prioritizes competition and individual gain, and really embracing a culture that values collaboration, shared responsibility, and a more holistic approach to progress.
It makes me think about that whole idea of like a scarcity mindset versus an abundance mindset.
Interesting.
It's almost like we need to shift our thinking away from this idea that, innovation is a zero-sum game
Right.
where one person's gain is another person's loss, and instead embrace this belief that innovation can be a force for collective benefit.
I love that, yeah, where everyone has the opportunity to contribute and thrive.
Right, exactly.
I think that's a really brilliant way to frame it. And that shift in mindset really aligns with the article's call for a new cultural paradigm where responsibility is interwoven with every act of creation.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just ask, can we innovate? We also need to be asking, how can we innovate responsibly and for the benefit of all?
It's such a more inspiring way to think about innovation, because I think a lot of times the traditional narratives around innovation are so focused on, disruption and competition.
Yeah.
And this is really about recognizing that innovation isn't just about creating new products or services.
Right.
It's about creating new possibilities for human flourishing.
Absolutely. And that sense of shared responsibility is crucial,
Yeah.
especially as the tools of innovation become increasingly accessible. It's not just about giving everyone access. It's about fostering a collective awareness of the impact our creations can have.
So to kind of circle back to that central question posed by the article, is a universal innovation system truly possible?
It's the big one.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Well, like any complex issue, there's no easy answer.
Right.
But I do think the article gives us reason to be optimistic.
Okay.
It points to this growing movement towards open innovation, the emergence of new tools and platforms that are making it easier than ever to collaborate and create.
Yeah.
And just a growing recognition of the importance of citizen engagement in the innovation process.
It does feel like all the pieces are starting to fall into place.
Yeah.
But I imagine there's still a long way to go and a lot of work to be done.
Oh, of course, there will always be challenges and obstacles,
Right.
But I think the most important step is simply starting the conversation, asking the tough questions, challenging our assumptions, and daring to imagine a future where innovation is truly a force for good in the world.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a conversation that we all need to be a part of.
Absolutely. And I think the article provides a really valuable framework for having that conversation. It encourages us to think critically about the values that will guide our innovation, the systems we need to put in place to ensure responsible creation, and the potential impact our choices on future generations.
It's really inspiring to think about what we could achieve, if we approach innovation with that kind of intentionality
I agree.
and responsibility.
It's not just about grand gestures or, sweeping societal changes.
Right.
It's also about the small, everyday choices we make.
Okay.
The technologies we choose to use, the way we approach problem solving in our own lives.
Yeah.
These seemingly small choices can ripple outward and contribute to a larger culture of responsible innovation.
So it's like embracing a mindset of innovation, not just in our work or our hobbies, but in all aspects of our lives.
Exactly. And that brings us to maybe the most crucial question I'd like to leave our listeners with today.
Okay, ready to lay it on us.
As we stand on the precipice of this new era of democratized innovation, what kind of world do we want to create?
Wow.
What values will guide our creations, and how will we ensure that the fruits of innovation are shared equitably and benefit all of humanity?
Those are some really powerful questions,
Mm.
and it's both a challenge and an invitation,
Mm-hmm.
to not just observe this unfolding revolution in innovation, but to actively shape it in a way that aligns with, our deepest values and aspirations.
Yeah, it really is. We're not just talking about sitting back and watching this happen. We're talking about actually being a part of it.
Exactly. And that's both exciting and a little bit intimidating. We have this incredible opportunity to tap into the collective genius of humanity.
Yeah.
But it comes with a huge responsibility to make sure that, this innovation actually benefits everyone. So where do we even start? I mean, what can people listening to this do to kind of be a part of this movement toward a more, inclusive and responsible way of innovating?
I think the first step is really just being curious, Stay informed about new technologies, engage with different perspectives, and don't be afraid to ask tough questions about the impact of all this on society.
It can't just be about staying informed, though, right?
No, you got to get
You got
involved.
to get your hands dirty.
There are so many ways to be part of this process, even if you don't have like a tech background.
Yeah.
Experiment with new tools, join maker communities, contribute to open source projects. The more we interact with these tools and these communities, the more we empower ourselves to actually create things instead of just, consuming them.
And I think it's important to remember the power of our voices, too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We can advocate for policies that support inclusive innovation. We can encourage companies to prioritize ethical considerations. And we can educate others about, the importance of responsible creation.
We often underestimate the influence we have as individuals. Our choices as consumers, the conversations we have with friends and family, the way we engage with technology, all of these things contribute to that larger culture of innovation.
So we're not just bystanders,
Right.
We're active participants shaping the future whether we realize it or not.
Which brings us back to that final thought-provoking question, as we're
Right.
moving into this new era of democratized innovation, what kind of world are we trying to build?
Yeah.
What values will guide our creations? And how are we going to make sure that the benefits of innovation are shared with everybody?
Those are questions that we should all be thinking about,
Right.
not just, as innovators or technologists, but as human beings.
Absolutely. And there's no one right answer.
Yeah.
But I think the article we've been talking about today gives us a really powerful framework for thinking about these issues.
Yeah.
It reminds us that innovation isn't just about technological advancements. It's about human evolution. It's about pushing the boundaries of our creativity, compassion, and how we connect with each other.
It's about using our ingenuity to build a future where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
And that's a future worth fighting for.
I totally agree. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the future of innovation.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope this conversation has sparked your own curiosity and inspired you to be an active participant in shaping this exciting and evolving landscape.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep innovating.